Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.
Well, hello there, DFW Soccer Curious. Welcome to another episode of Third Degree, the podcast. Being the much superior American to Buzz and I that he is, Dan Crooke is not here because he's paying proper homage and taking the pod off to pay tribute to those who sacrificed the most for our country, while Buzz and I stick to talking soccer because we're just that way. So Dan's not here today, but he is your hero, my hero, everybody's hero, editor, founder of thirddegree.net, and the original soccer influencer himself, Buzz Carrick. Come in, Buzz.
Yeah, happy Memorial Day, Peter. Glad you could be here with Talk Soccer with me.
Me too. We got lots to get into. Before that, I'll just remind everybody that we are nigh close to the World Cup, and the Kick Around, the radio show that I do with Andy Swift, will be converting itself back to its original form, which is World Cup Kick Around, which we have done for the 3 previous World Cups. Nightly, at least hour, if not hour and a half long, live radio shows on the ticket after the hard line at 7 p.m., just kind of getting into what has happened that day in the World Cup, what is going on in that moment, because there's shows where we're doing shows when there are games going on, and then even after the fact. So the full schedule and everything is all up on our website, thekickaround.com, along with the group and team memorization tool and the World Cup Kit Cup. Which one is the nerdier thing that I built? I'll let you decide. Buzz, have you completed the World Cup Kit Cup yet?
Yeah, I did it twice, and I got the same answer both times.
And who'd you select? Who was your winner?
Germany white.
Germany away.
White.
Germany
white.
Home. Okay.
Yeah, the fancy one with the colors on come on across the chest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so since we talked to you last, we added a really cool feature, which is a scorecard. So if you complete the tournament, or if you've already completed the tournament and go back to it, there's a new tab at the top that says results. And so we've been keeping in the background a tally of everybody who has previously completed the tournament, and it will show you results for the team, group, and overall level. So there you go.
It's lots of fun.
It is cool. So go check those things out at thekickaround.com. And the radio show will begin on Wednesday, June the 10th, the Saturday before. In our normal 2 to 4 slot on Saturdays, we'll have a giant preview show. And yes, Lars Severston is coming over from Europe to do the show with us as well.
Is he actually going to be here in person with you?
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah. We're flying him over, and we're putting him up somewhere, and he's here for the entirety of the tournament.
All right. Awesome. I probably should mention to everybody that because of the World Cup and because FC Dallas is going on hiatus and Dallas Trinity is done, and other teams like Atletico and Rodeo are not playing yet, and North Texas has 2 games before they shut down for the World Cup, like basically there's nothing to talk about on the podcast for a good 2-month window. So the podcast will go sort of into a holding pattern.
Stasis.
Yeah, stasis. Most of which is because Peter can't be here at all. So Dan and I will be, observing and following along. And if there's FC Dallas news or Atletico news or Trinity news or World Cup news that has somehow related to the Metroplex, then we will do some things. There might be an episode or 2 throughout there, but we're going to sort of go into quiet mode for a bit, and then we will come back basically, towards the end of the World Cup, maybe like the first week of August, or maybe somewhere around that window, the podcast will resume itself, because with no other soccer in the world happening but the World Cup, that's not our area of expertise. You have the Kick Around for that. You have other people for that. So we'll just be enjoying it like everybody else was, but we're not going away. We're just taking a small break, and we'll be back.
It is quite remarkable the amount of soccer content that is available to us currently and in the coming few weeks. All of the different series that are on TV, all of the documentaries and podcasts and stuff.
There's too many documentaries.
It's ridiculous. The Vice one with Pablo Mara is actually quite good. I'm not sure it's retelling a story we all haven't heard a lot, but it's probably really good for relatively new people to it. The HBO documentary is turning out to be a massive disappointment.
Is that the one on the current team?
Yeah, it's the one that they've been shooting for 4 years, and they've only released 2 episodes. But the director confirmed for me what I was really worried about after the first episode, which was they purposefully has essentially left out the entire Raina Berhalter controversy, and he claims it's because, as he says, he's a proper journalist. He didn't have the time or ability to give it proper coverage because it was just too complicated. And I called bullshit on that in the biggest way. And if you want to hear do you want to hear my crazy conspiracy theory?
Yeah, go.
My crazy conspiracy theory is that he actually, because he is a noted journalist by trade, I suspect he actually did shoot an entire edit that includes the entire controversy. But when it became more and more clear that Raina was going to get included in the roster, the Federation said, you need to take that out because that's going to cause problems with him being back in the team. That's a conspiracy theory. I've not heard that anywhere. I'm making that up off the top of my head and pulling it out of my butt. So, but you can kind of see how it makes sense.
Yeah, I'm one of those people that thinks that the stuff that happened with Raina should disqualify him probably from ever getting called up anymore. I think it's not the same, but it's of the same vintage as the Harks and all this stuff. That really just destroys your team. And I'm amazed they called him up again.
Yeah, I never could figure out if the worst part of that entire story was him throwing a hissy fit as a teenager, or if it was his parents' ridiculous revenge tactic after the fact. And I suspect it's the parental part of it that was the worst part of all of that. And he was, just a kid and hopefully matures and all that stuff. But all that aside, I'm still just blown away that tomorrow, Tuesday, or whenever somebody listens to this episode, is apparently likely to get called back up to the World Cup. I find that flabbergasting.
I mean, it was his. I'm with you. It's probably the parent stuff, but his tantrum was so bad that, like, I heard about it through back channels. Like, players told players who told us. Like, we heard about it back here in the States. That's how awful it was. Well before it actually became public. Like, so it's like it was definitely way up there.
Yeah,
but
well, the way that's described at the beginning of episode 2 of this series is that the Berhalter and Raina families had a significant disagreement.
That's awesome.
It's pretty poor.
Anyway, like calling Vietnam a conflict.
Yes. So anyway, it's a hype. It's a promotional hype video, and maybe that's my feeling is, if you're going to do a hype video, there's nothing wrong with that. Just cop to it, though, because maybe that's what the U.S. men's national team and U.S. soccer culture needs right now, is just pure hype.
Yeah.
But don't hide behind journalistic BS and whatever force fields you throw up there. Just cop to it, man.
Right.
Everybody to understand. So there you go. That's the U.S. against the world on HBO, and there's 5 episodes total coming out. They've only released 2 of them. So
yeah, that doesn't make me really want to watch it, but we'll see.
It's I will say this, it's produced really nicely. It's shot extremely well. It's probably over edited, hypey kind of editing in the way that it's done.
Yeah,
but some of the footage, especially the footage in the aftermath of the Copa loss, and the scenes after Tim Weah got the red card in the game against Panama in the group stage of the Copa, is pretty interesting stuff. Yeah, right. All right, there you go. Let's move on to things that people really care about on this specific podcast, which is Football Club Dallas, the Burn. We are doing this and recording this after is it a surprising 2-1 win up in Colorado, Buzz?
I mean, any road win is a little bit of a pleasant surprise. Dallas is pretty good on the road, and Colorado's not great. So I don't know that I'm going to call it like a crazy surprise, but it's always nice and pleasant surprise to get points on the road.
So Dallas goes up for the final game before the big break, and they do so without Musa, who had been, and Dietzen, both who have been held back for because they had both been called up for the World Cup, and they also didn't have Urhoghide in the lineup. So we got a bit of a janky lineup, and their record in Denver is terrible as a club, and so. Look, they got a couple of. I mean, this is one of those weird games where you get a win, you say it was ugly, but you can't, you can't deny any win. All wins are good, and you just take them as you get them, and you move on. And we'll wait and see what happens in 2 months.
Yeah, we remember coming out of the San Jose game, we talked about what a good team win that was. It was a collective, strong performance. This was not that. This was a collective, really poor performance. FC Dallas as a group had 5 total shots, and only 2 of those are on target. Those 2 that are on target are the 2 PKs. So that means they only had 3 shots in the run of play, and none of those 3 shots were on target. That is a brutally bad team collective performance, particularly when we talk about how this team needs to create chances in good position to be able to be successful. And this they did not have. And it's the 2 players they were missing. Oz is not a guy that helps with your ability to get chances, quality chances. Musa is, but more about the finishing of them than the getting them. So like to not even get a quality set of opportunities at all. I mean, they're down to 34% possession, which is brutal, and they're 1.76 xG when Colorado had a 1.6 xG from 17 shots. Most of Dallas's xG is more than likely the 2 PKs, because I think a PK is about a 0.75 xG generally speaking. So if you take away those 2 things, that's like a 0.3 xG for Dallas, which is brutally bad. It's just an overall really poor performance, and as I joked in my 3 things and at the end, that they had 6 central midfielders in the game for the bulk of it, and none of them could pass, build, line break, dribble past anybody, and essentially just play soccer at all. They just got absolutely manhandled, except they got 2 soft, accurate, but soft PK helps from the referee. I can't complain about them not being PKs because they are. They're just not very rough ones. They're pretty flop over kind of PKs, but they got them and they won.
You shouldn't, if you love the game of soccer, you should not like those PKs, even if they go in your favor.
No, they're not PKs that you think are like, oh, that's a foul. It was like, that's a foul, I guess. Sort of. I mean, they will. Now Dallas over the years has been able to get some wins. They have 9 wins in Colorado. So it's not like Seattle where they have 1 or Vancouver where they have
But I feel like it's been a long time since they won in Colorado last year.
It probably has been. And Colorado's the team. Like if you're a long-term FC Dallas fan, you know that Colorado's a team that's smashed them and knocked them out of the playoffs when they had good teams. Dallas did more than anybody else. This is the team that's hurt them the most in the playoffs. Of late, they have to go to Seattle all the time. But historically, Colorado was the problem team.
I'm looking right now. You want to guess the last time Dallas won in Colorado?
2018.
Would you believe me if I told you it was October 18th, 2014?
Ooh, it's even longer.
Now, there were 4 straight ties in the road games after that. But since then, there have been 2 3-0 losses and a bunch of other shutouts too.
This is the 11th place team in the West. Colorado is. They're the youngest team on average age in the league. This is a team that you want to be able to beat in their home field, but nonetheless, road life is always hard. So like, as you point out, since it's been since 2014, since they beat them there, it just goes to show you how difficult it can be. But this is a team, Dallas, that does get a lot of points on the road under Quill. So,
yeah,
you always feel like they're in it when they have a chance. And this proved to be one of those cases because the referee helped them.
Well, they say you should never apologize for a win, but this was the ugly kind of win. And especially considering the lineup that you had to roll out. So, the altitude, all of that. By the way, just observationally, before we get into the game, what happened in Colorado? That place was that place looked just about as full as I've ever seen.
Yeah.
Well, they had Dick's Sporting Goods
Park
Hut or whatever they're calling it.
Well, they had a pretty good season last year. That probably helped a little bit. They're finally doing some things to get known in the community. Possibly. I'm not on the ground in Colorado, so I can't really tell you. But yeah, I think the last couple of years they've ticked up a little bit in their attendance. People seem to be buying in on the Rapids a little bit of late. They're about to go through that brand tweak or whatever, which I don't know much about, but I thought that was a little odd. They're going to do that, but they're going to do that. So
the rumor is they're going to start calling that stadium Dick's Hut.
Dick's Hut.
Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know what that means, man.
I don't either. I like that Paxton Aronson kid. He's a good player. Yeah, that's a nice set. I'd pay money to go see that kid play soccer on the regular.
I guess the weirdest thing in the lineup is, we're continuing to see this 4 central midfielders across. Ron Benjamin played left back, which was clearly not something he'd ever done before. He quite egregiously bit hard and led to their goal. When as a midfielder, you can buy trying to step forward and snuff that play out. But as a defender, you have to be conservative and backpedal and get back and stay back, So not a great defensive performance by Benjamin by any means. Not the kind of performance where you go, oh, I'd like to see some more of that. No, I definitely would not like to see more of that.
Yeah, but it was funny because you in your instant reaction video, and you just said it again here a little while ago, verbalized something that was very frustrating watching the game, which was, oh my gosh, we have 6 center mids out on the field at the same time. By rule, I think center mids are supposed to be superior passing players.
You would think.
Really good at it.
Yeah.
And yet there were 6 center midfielders, and Dallas couldn't pass for shit. And that really, really worried me. And I couldn't quite figure out, is it because so many of them are playing out of position and they're being asked to pass in ways they're just not used to? It was so bad.
I don't know. Honestly,
and they still won the game. That's the crazy part.
Well, they only won the game because of 2 PKs. If there's not 2 PKs, they're not winning that game because there's no creation at all. There's you have to look at the central midfielders they're choosing, one of which is Santiago Moreno. We're counting him as a central midfielder because they're talking about him being a 10. Now, historically, I think of him as a winger, but FC Dallas keeps talking about him as their new 10, so we include him in that scenario. But Benjamin is a hardworking, moves a fair amount of ground. Valiente, hardworking, covers a fair amount of ground, presses well. Cake covers a fair amount of ground, attacks pretty well. Ramiro does not cover a lot of ground, but does, play pretty good. These are all defensive players. They're all midfielders known for their grit and grind and defensive ability, not for their playmaking, passing, creating. None of these dudes are catalysts. The only guy that's even remotely close to a catalyst is Delgado. And that only happens, I think, when he plays really strong high defense. But this game, because Colorado is, in fact, a very good possession team and a very good passing out of the back team. So that ability of Dallas to high press them was out the window pretty much, which is why I was actually surprised Delgado started, because the game that he did really well was the game where he was able to press Tigger on center backs and create some havoc. So in this game, we got the sort of just walk around Delgado. He spent a big chunk of the game way out over on left wing trying to find some space, which is fine because Santi Moreno spent the whole game inside trying to go inside. So, it was an absolute mess of a thing. And while we call them all 6 midfielders, it was really more like 5 holding mids and 1 winger. But still, the point holds that Dallas didn't have anybody in the midfield that wanted to dribble past somebody or line break or get some transition. And it was striking to me, the minute they brought Kappas in, he immediately made 3 straight plays where he turned, dribbled past 2 dudes, and then played a ball off. So instantly they had the ability to do that because he's the only mid they have that does that. But they don't start him. So I don't know what, at this point, it's just this is the grindiest grind of all 6 holding mids I've ever seen in this club do. But it worked. So this is the Quill MO. This is I can't tell you it's not the game plan. It sure looks like it's the game plan. And in this case, when they got the PKs handed to them, it all worked, which is crazy. So you won a game missing your 2 best players. It's amazing sometimes when you can do that.
Yeah, I mean, and while they got lucky with the 2 PKs, they also got lucky that Colorado can't finish a sandwich.
Yeah.
And Serrois had a couple of really nice moments. I saw somebody tweeting today they thought he might be the best Canadian keeper running right now. Is he didn't get a call up, or maybe they haven't made the Canadian call up yet. That comes out tomorrow too.
I'm pretty sure he's not getting called up though.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, so it's all interesting, and one of those deals where I always feel weird about this because I hate watching this team play this way. It's not fun. It's not entertaining, and it's But
I'd go so far as to say this is the worst soccer-y performance of the year for FC Dallas. They did not play any good soccer at all. But what they did was sit back in their 2 lines of 4 and later in a 5-4. And Colorado had 17 shots, which ordinarily you'd think, man, that's a lot of shots, but only 5 of them hit the target. And all the ones that hit the target were from outside the penalty box, except for one, and it was way over on the left. So again, like Dallas's double block is limiting the other team to a low XG, low quality of opportunities. And it's effective. You only need 1 or 2 good saves from your keeper, and the other team's not scoring. The only goal they got was when a catastrophic transition mistake happens and they get in on the break, right? That wasn't like they were like doing their typical passing around. Dallas wasn't in their block. No, they didn't break anybody down. They just caught Dallas and Benjamin in particular in a poor transitional moment, and they got in the box. So
okay, so you have done a really good job for the last 15, 20 minutes. Reporter style describing what happened, but I'm curious in talking about this. How do you feel about it as a fan?
I did not enjoy it at all. This is not a game I enjoyed. There are games that Dallas plays in a defensive block where they get forward and they catch the other team in transition. They catch them in some mistakes. They turn them over. They get at them in a hurry. Those can be fun. If you can get 3, 4, 5 really great scoring opportunities, that's exciting. And there have been games where I've enjoyed the games, even though Dallas is not playing a great soccer-y game. This game was a bad soccer-y game and not fun because they didn't create anything. And like I said, like it was driving me bonkers that like none of these 6 midfielders, none of these dudes can play soccer. And it was just driving me crazy.
Yeah, and I think the question to come out of it is because we have seen them produce fun out of this formation.
Yeah.
Obviously, the reason is because you're missing Petter Musa and you're missing I don't know how much Urhoghide has to do with that. Maybe something.
Well, he's a decent passer out of the back. I will say that. Yeah.
And whatever else, what other thing that you've got that's changed because of these missing pieces? Norris. And so maybe that's what it is. And maybe it's just a reflection of just how this team has so little depth.
Yeah, like your 2 best defensive passers are Urhoghide, who's the second best defensive passer, and Nolan Norris. And the broadcast, the home radio guys mentioned that Norris had some sort of little knock, so they precaution-wise put him on the bench and subbed him in. But those are your 2 best passers out of your defense. That definitely limits your ability to transition, definitely limits your ability to get to find midfielders in positions to do anything. Sure, it's a factor, but like it was just watching this game was just like it was so boring and non-fun to watch.
So does this render you and I like the 2 old guys in the Muppets, just up in the audience,
pretty much,
just pretty much being grumpy old men?
Well, even if you like modern soccer or like defensive soccer, I don't think you would watch FC Dallas play and say, "Boy, that was a lot of fun." There have been a lot of games like the San Jose game. I thought was fun. You know, the Vancouver game was fun, even though they lost. You know, I remember doing my 3 things on the Vancouver game, thinking that was a fun game. That was a great game. Yeah. You know, great performance by Dallas, even though they just got unlucky and didn't get the win. This game, man, they were awful, and they got lucky and got the win. It's just a really bad. I can't help but think that like some of them might, maybe not on purpose, but some of them might have mentally been on vacation already. You know, this is the last game. We're shutting down after this. You know,
like the Philly Miami 6-4.
Yeah, we're missing Oz. We're missing Musa's never playing for this club again. You know, all this kind of stuff. You know.
Yeah. This is a weird. This is a very unusual season in the fact that it's the stoppage and all of that. And I can't imagine being a player, realizing you're just going to be sitting on your butt essentially for 2 months, or alternatively, you're getting ready to go play in a World Cup for your national team.
Yeah.
And how that affects you going into these final games.
MLS has stopped before, but only usually for their opening round. They usually then
Right.
they get going again. This one's much longer as a stop, and plus with Dallas and the whole stadium thing, and like it's just a weird season.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And then, there's the whole, sort of Damocles hanging over this team, which is the Petter Musa situation. I mean, we may have watched him play his last game for the team. Who knows what's going to happen with that guy? I guess I was thinking about this the other day. If he gets sold, is that on balance a good thing? Meaning, the business model of Football Club Dallas has succeeded?
Yeah, it would depend on how successful they are with what they do with the money. This club is always they've said flat out, we're a stepping stone club. They advertise themselves as that. That's how they
we're a development club.
Yeah, that's how they appeal to a lot of the signings they make out of South America, and particularly even Musa from Europe was that, hey, we're a great stepping stone club. You can put yourself in a shop window here. This is what this club has decided it is. And that's just, if you're going to be a fan of this team, you have to have that in your brain. You have to understand that this is not LAFC. This is not Miami, where they're signing big, huge stars and they're winning it all, trying to win it all every year and spending all kinds of money. This is not that team. So you just have to accept it if you're going to be a fan of this team, that this is the way it is. So, it would not shock me to see people come in for other players than Musa. We've passed on to other people's reporting about the interest in Kayik. I think you can't help but watch this team. If you're scouting this team for Musa, you can't help but notice Urhoghide play. Now he's a bit chaotic and occasionally gets way upfield and gets lost. I think that's less appealing to a powerhouse European team, but his skill and the level of play is undeniable. The guy can absolutely play at a really high level. He's definitely Dallas's best defender without any question. So this summer is a summer of chaos. And also we're about to see the league realign its calendar. So this is one of the first big windows where like you might be looking at people across the league either way as I'm not going to sign people from here through to next summer. And right, because next summer is the mini season and then the transition to the winter. So like, there's an easy 1-year deal to that summer and going forward with 1-year deals from here on. So a lot of people thought things are going to change around the league this summer. It's going to be a summer of chaos in that sense.
Yeah, the Musa situation fascinates me because if they sell him, that means, one, he had a really good World Cup, but I also think it will come at a lower price than I think people expect. We've joked about 30, 40 million bucks. I don't think that's any sort of real number. No, I think the Hunts sell him if they can double their 10 million bucks on him. Mm-hmm. He is still 28. He's not in that prime buying window. But he is, if there's a European team out there that he wants to go to that could benefit from somebody like that guy, it won't surprise us at all if he's not here.
I think 20 million would get them to sell, and I think that there's a boatload of teams in the top 5 leagues in Europe who could use a striker of his ability, and for whom 20 million bucks would not be a stretch. That's a pretty easy number. Like we talk about guys, like you can't look at like the bottom of Portugal and expect them to spend 20 million. Well, no, but you can look at the bottom of the Premier League or the bottom of the German league and expect people to maybe spend $20 million without too much trouble. So there's plenty of teams that could really, I don't look at like the top half of the Premier League for him, because a team like that, he would go and sit on the bench. Then you're looking at teams like Newcastle who dropped Almiron or whatever. It's like they just had Isak that they sold for 120 million. They're not going to spend. A striker they would buy for 20 million, as just an example, is not going to be walking in and starting. But if you were looking at like mid-table Bundesliga, a player like him who's from Croatia would just walk right in, I think, and be like perfectly fit right into their squad, for example. So maybe not Bayern Munich, but maybe like a mid-table, German team. You could see that happening. Maybe not Spain, but he did play in Portugal, so maybe Spain's a better fit than I think.
Yeah. And, there's been a lot of really good and healthy conversation about this in your Discord for anybody who is looking for that kind of space. Give Buzz, what is it, $5 a month or something to get access to it.
Yep.
And one of the interesting ideas and conversations that come out of it is, the Hunts could keep him around if they just paid him what he deserves for this league in comparison to other strikers who are performing way below him. But then you begin to look at those numbers and you look at what those salaries are in 2026 for those guys. And Petr Musa today is what, on 2.5?
It's 2.45 is the base.
All right. Yeah. They're going to have to start that offer by doubling it. And he suddenly now becomes the most expensive salary player in club history, or very close to it.
I think Lucho was higher, wasn't he?
Was he at 5?
I think he was at 4 something.
Yeah. Well, I would suspect he would end Musa to get him to stay in lieu of a better offer over in Europe. Is they're just going to have to money whip him to death. Something the Hunts are completely capable of doing, but will they pull the trigger to do that?
Yeah, that's the thing, is that they don't tend to do that. They don't spend. What is Messi on, like $20 million a year? That's like, they're not doing that.
He's
like
2x the entire Dallas salary, the entire Dallas, wage bill.
I think Musa is like on his 2.4 is maybe the second or third biggest contract they've ever had. And so like for them to go double that is tough. That's a tough ask for them. This is just how they run their budgets. They just don't do this. So like, it's like, yes, it's possible you could keep Musa, keep him happy. Definitely. He seems to be very happy here. But
what team was it the other day, this later this season they played, where Musa's 2.5 was not even top 5 salary on the team they just played? Was it Vancouver?
It probably would be Vancouver.
Yeah, it was crazy. So anyway, we'll see how it all plays out. There's a part of me that feels like if they sell him, you've got to be happy for him, and you got to be happy for the club, because as advertised, this was the point to all of this.
Yeah. By the way, I looked up Acosta. He was on a base of 3 and a 4.3 guaranteed
escalator or whatever.
Yeah. So still like that's the highest salary they've ever had. And Musa's like, I'm sure he's top 3 without looking, but you're right. The real question is like, yes, you want to be happy for Musa, but then you have to think to yourself, the next part, which I think most people think to themselves, okay, what are they going to do with that? Yeah. And then you have to look at like, okay, how happy would be with Farrington? Would they go out and get another striker at the $9-10 million number, which is what Musa was when they bought him?
See, I think the X factor in all of this is exactly what you spoke about, which is the shifting calendar and the fact that next summer's the first summer off-season kind of deal. And now you're into the healthier, meatier transfer window before a new season starts. And I think what the club is going to ask the fans to put up with, and it's a strategy I don't wholly disagree with, but I'm going to put a caveat there in a second, which is, look, I know you want a Musa replacement today, but the smart spend of our money is to wait until the summer of 27 to use it. The caveat to that, here's the caveat. What if this team continues to perform? It finds itself in 4th place right now in the West.
Yeah.
What if somehow coming out of the window and into that really awful, gauntlet of away games, Quill has got this team, churning points, and you're getting towards the end of the season and you got something working, and, you get to the end of the window and you're like, if we just had another striker, really good goal poacher to go along with the Beaver. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. Well, that's where they would point at like Santi Moreno, like you might look at Anderson Julio getting healthy.
Yeah, well, that's exactly what they'll
I
do.
know. This club loves to say, we're going to wait and see how it does. This club's MO, rather than having, this is the window we're going to, quote unquote, I'm quoting, selling Musa, and we got another guy lined up right away. Like you hear about deals sometimes, it says this deal's lined up where the player's going to get sold, but only if we get the replacement are we going to pull the trigger on the initial sale. But that's not FC Dallas's MO. FC Dallas's MO is pull the trigger, get the money, and then we're going to see what happens, and we'll wait to the next window. Well, the next window would be the winter window, which is no good window. We've just went through that. That's the no good window. So now you're looking at summer of 2027 when they're doing the calendar flip. I mean, I hope you're right. I hope you're not right on this one. I hope that if they're going to sell Musa, that they know what they're going to do with the money. But I think because Logan Farrington is pretty good, they honestly might just tell Quill, well, let's just see what happens with Logan Farrington at the 9 and see how that goes. Since we just got you Santi Moreno.
Yeah, and we'll replace your replacement for Farrington is Nick Simmons.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
It is.
And Sam Sarver's going great. Sam Sarver, Modelo money rolling in.
Right. Yeah.
Did you see his Modelo jam box today, by the way, out on the lake? That was awesome. So good. Where did he score a Modelo? I mean, I'm sure I know where he scored it, but that is so good.
Yeah.
He needs to get out there more, though. He's a little pale looking.
What a wonderful run. Okay, yeah, so it wasn't there's not much to talk about this game. It was an ugly win. Again, you so never apologize. I should say this. I'm going to say it. This is like the 4th time I've said it. I'm going to say it again because I don't want anybody to come away from this thinking they're just grumpy old guy. You never apologize for a win. But there are elements to what happened in this game that are red flags to me about how long this is sustainable with this group, especially because it's a reflection of its lack of depth. That's the issue.
Yeah. I do want to have one thing from this game I want to shout out, and that's I thought Herman Johansson, who was my player of the game, I thought he was terrific. Mm-hmm. And the biggest indicator of that is that Colorado in the first half, Darren Yappy, who's an excellent player, was on Johansson's side, and Johansson, obviously with some help from the inside and from the midfielder, but whatever. Yappy did nothing. So much so that at halftime, Colorado flipped him and Minuyu, the other winger they have, in order to try and get Yappy going against Benjamin. And Minuyu got shut down by Johansson. And so much so that the minute Johansson subbed out, they flipped Yappy back over to that left side pretty quickly. So, like, I just thought there was some recognition from Colorado's in there that he was getting handled. Both that side was getting handled really well by Johansson. He had a really terrific game. And then I thought there was a couple times too where Johansson got forward and contributed well. Now, if this had been a game where Dallas would have been playing some scintillating football, some people might have done some things other than Johansson that would have gotten the man of the match. But in the context of how horrible this game was, Johansson had 7 defensive contributions, pretty solid play across the board, 3 tackles, some clearances, some recoveries, just a general quality defensive game from him. And he in 36 touches, he managed to get forward into the box, got a touch in the box, got 3 passes into the final third. So, relatively really good game from him because a lot of people have been bagging on him. And you've asked me many times, like, how do I think he's doing? So I thought this was a really good defensive game, where he can sometimes be susceptible. So strong game by him, I thought. Don't think he got the World Cup either, did he? Because he's been in and out of the Sweden team. Is he in the Sweden team? I don't think he is.
No, he was called. He's on the auxiliary list and is joining the team when they come over. Because obviously they're essentially training in his backyard. So
that's cool.
He got on the auxiliary list. So if somebody gets hurt or whatever, I guess in theory he could get called up for the Sweden for the Sweden.
Yep.
All right, so Dallas finds itself in 4th place at the end of all of this, which is. Okay, that's not bad.
Yeah, if you remember, Peter, when we did our predictions at the beginning of the year, I said that if they get a 10 and the 10 hits, they will finish 4th to 6th. So that's right where they are now. The caveat, of course, is that the schedule is front loaded for home games. They played more home games than almost everybody else. They're going to have this humongous stretch of road games, and that stretch of ties at home is like at the end of the season, you may look back and think, boy, those 4 ties in a row, I think it was, are going to cost you. After the DC game when they tied St. Louis, tied the Galaxy, lost to Minnesota, lost to Seattle, that little stretch there was before they went and beat New York.
They're going to regret that.
They're going to regret that little run, I think. Now, it depends. Like if they continue to be just crazy nuts on the road, then all bets are off in terms of that, right? And then we'll have to talk about what an insane job Quill's doing coaching up what is basically a little bit of a subpar talent group compared to the big spending teams in the league, right? And how much credible they are on the road. You'll have to start talking about platitudes for Quill. But in the meantime, like we got a lot of the season left, a lot of road games left. So we'll have to see how they do coming out of the summer and starting off with a couple of road games before they go into Leagues Cup on the back end.
I wonder how many people listening are aware of the fact that Dallas's road record is superior to its home record, which is crazy to think that, they went into the season with the front loaded, mostly home game record or schedule, and they dropped so many points. They're 3-2-4. 4 is ties, not losses at home, and they're 4-2-0 on the road. That's wins, losses, and draws. The way that's set together. So it is interesting that that they've gotten way more points on the road than I think we anticipated, and as we worried about, dropped way too many points at home.
Yeah, then that's typical Quill MO with his team. Like they were the same way last year. They perform better on the road than at home. So like they still haven't solved whatever it is that makes them not be great at home. I can't help but think it's mentality when you go. Yeah. Well, it could be the construction. I think it's more about mentality, of which construction could be a factor, in the sense of like at home you relax and are comfortable, whereas on the road it's like you're surrounded by the enemy, if you will. Like it's us against everything, and we're going to fight in battle. We're at home. You're like, oh, cool, we're at home. And you relax a little bit. That's what this team is so much about, their mindset and their willingness to battle and all that kind of stuff. I just think that that's what happens at home. And it could be the atmosphere stinks, and they're like, man, playing here sucks. That could be part of it too, for all I know.
Yeah, interesting stuff. All right. Well, the breaketh has begun, and we won't see Football Club Dallas again for quite some time. In fact, the next home game is kind of crazy to think about. This isn't until hold on, don't say it out loud. Isn't until the game in Portland in late July on the 21st or 20. What is it? The 23rd, I think it is.
Did you say home game or road game?
Road game in Portland.
Yeah, July 22nd in Portland.
22nd.
The nenext home game is September 5th.
Correct. Yeah. Crazy.
No, now technically there's a home game against Carrot. Getting bored. Peter, how do you
Leagues Cup game? Just say Leagues Cup game.
The Leagues Cup game
against a Liga MX team.
God dang it! I cannot say this name. It's a mental hang up. But
Quesadillas. They're playing against Quesadilla Soccer Club.
Yep. That team's at home for Dallas, but we know that game will not be at Toyota Stadium. It's like it's going to be somewhere else.
That's going to be in Mansfield.
No,
they're not playing it in Mansfield.
No, I don't think so.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think so.
Is that
I think Mansfield? We determined that Mansfield wasn't going to work.
Wait, no. I thought there was a game. They've got 3 Leagues Cup games. One of them we thought they were going to play in Mansfield. One they would play in Mexico, and the other one we think they're going to play in Houston, right?
Well, Dallas only has one home game of those 3, and then they have 2 road games technically. So they're at Chivas and at Toluca. And,
I got that backwards. Okay.
Yep.
So you think they're going to play the home game outside of Dallas?
Yes. Because the first game at Mansfield's new stadium is the July 4th game. So like schedule-wise, the stadium will be open and available in theory. But that stadium, I don't think that stadium is this is just pure speculation on my part. Like if it was going to be played in that stadium, they would be listing it as being played in that stadium in Mansfield, right? Why would they not? And it's still listed as TBD. So I think that
maybe they're waiting to see if ticket sales would justify, like they could. I mean, the reason why you don't play it in Mansfield is because the stadium isn't big enough to accommodate the amount of tickets you think you can sell for it. But do you really think they can pull more than 8,000 people for a Leagues Cup game against a relatively Quesadilla soccer, Quesadilla FC?
Yeah, a couple of gringos. I don't know, man. I just don't know. I just think that if it was there, they would announce that. They would be talking about it, hyping it up, trying to get, and they're not. So,
well, yeah, I wonder. Yeah.
Like the Toluca game, we know it's got listed. It's got Estadio Nemesio Diaz. I don't know where that is. It's probably in Toluca. Is it not? I think.
Yeah, I think that one is.
Yes, that game is at Toluca's home stadium. The Chivas game is still his TBD somewhere in the U.S., even though it's a road game for FC Dallas. And then the Querétaro game is also TBC, to be confirmed.
Okay,
so, that's weird. It's weird stuff. But anyway, yep. 3 road games before those 3 Leagues Cup games. So, it's not until September. So all things combined, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. 10 games either on the road or a home game at somebody else's stadium. for Dallas on the back end of the World Cup before they play that home game against Kansas City.
All right. Well, we'll figure that's it for a while. Just put that one to bed for a bit.
Yep.
Little Burn had a game, and I always forget that this league does the whole shootout thing at the end. They don't have ties.
Yeah, well, they get 1 point instead of 2 if you win the shootout or whatever. It's that silliness. I think it's dumb. Natty James finally scored a goal against somebody other than Sporting Kansas City. Remember, we told you that all 7 of his goals had come against the one team. He finally scored against somebody else. And then Adu Nice also scored again. Both of those guys are having phenomenal seasons with great numbers, the kind of seasons that you would think, man, surely Dallas is going to look at them at some point. But remember, they're both foreign players, so that makes it almost impossible for that to happen, short of a much bigger turnover in the Dallas roster this summer than we expect. I would not anticipate seeing either one of those 2 players come up this year because Nice is Belgium and Natty James is from TNT, so not likely to be able to help you this year. And not much to say about them. They have 2 more home games. They got St. Louis on the 30th. They're at St. Louis, and then they're at Vancouver on June 10th, and then they shut down for the World Cup as well. So they got a couple more games over the next 2 weeks when Dallas is done.
Well, they do have the July 4th game, which will be the debut in their new stadium out in Mansfield. And if I wasn't in the middle, if I wasn't balls deep in the World Cup and having to do the kick around, I would be there for that game because that play. By the way, every photograph and all the video I've seen of that new stadium. And is there a name for it?
Texas Health Mansfield Stadium.
Okay, well,
the official name is Mansfield Stadium, but it's got the sponsorship Texas Health,
right?
Mansfield Stadium.
Yeah, well, it looks fantastic. And I'm excited for those guys to have, and I'm excited for people in Mansfield to have that down there. I'm really curious to find out how success. Let me put it this way: I think we're going to learn a lot about the soccer market, and what what other teams that are getting ready to start playing or here in the area are facing in terms of ticket sales when we can kind of see how North Texas does in Mansfield.
Yeah, that stadium only holds 7,500 seats.
Right.
So keep that in mind for your Leagues Cup possibility and/or if you can't sell out 7,500 seats. Now that's way more people than come to North Texas games now in Choctaw. By the way, this was their last game in Choctaw. They're both their road games and then they go to this new place. So we'll have to see if they draw better. Because right now I think they average about, I don't know what it is on paper. I would say in person, it's anywhere from 500 to 1,000 at most. They've been doing it as a home field at Choctaw. So, the stadium is not going to work out if you don't draw more than that.
No, but I think Choctaw always felt like a stopgap, and there was no connection between that team and Arlington or the surrounding area. I feel like they've gone about it the right way and really trying to connect this thing to the community in Mansfield
for sure.
Say, hey, here's your pro team, guys. Why don't you, are you interested in coming out and supporting this? So that to me is going to be an interesting bellwether for the Atletico Dallases and Rodeo SCs and all these other ones of the world,
and the greater health of Next Pro, because this is what the team, the people that are bringing in the money, this equity group into Next Pro, this is their model. This is this other location than where your main team plays. Different name, trying to make them more like minor league baseball teams and sustainable and profitable on their own. This is what those guys want to do. So North Texas is a good model for that.
Yeah,
theoretically.
Yeah, well,
little grass surface too down there.
Yeah, well, so everybody, if there's not a game on in the World Cup, you make your way to Mansfield, and a World Cup game that you care about. Go make your way to Mansfield and go check that out. All right, let's move on from there, and we'll go into Trinity, whose season is now over. And there's other news within the league that we can get into in a second. But Dallas loses their playoff game against Lexington. And better luck next season.
Yeah, they got beat pretty handily by Lexington, who was the number one team in the league. Trinity is a possession-based team. They need the ball. They want to move the ball around, spread you out. And they only had 46% possession, so they got pretty much beat at their own game. Was not a strong performance by them relative to the last couple games of the season where they played really, really well, but against teams that were down near the bottom of the league. Now you play the number one team in the league, it ain't the same, And we saw this season basically turn into a case of three really good teams and then everybody else. And Trinity was the best of everybody else, but all those other teams from Trinity on down in the standings were not anywhere near good as those top three teams were, of which Lexington was the bellwether team. And I think it's a tough end of the season. They had some personnel changes in terms of who was playing. Lexington now goes on to play the Carolina Ascent, who's another really good team. So, they had a lot of pieces moving in and out. It's going to lead to what I think is going to be a pretty big turnover this year, this off season for Trinity, because in part you have players like Amber Wisner, amazing career. She's retiring. I bet she won't be the only one to retire. I bet you there'll be two or three more. Caroline Swan and Celie Strawn are both off to college. But more importantly, the league is now 2 years in. And so a lot of those initial contracts that were likely 1+1 or maybe a 2-year deal or 2+1, those deals are probably all coming up. So you're going to have, I think, a big chunk of the roster probably either be out of contract or be on an option the team could decline. So I would expect there to be kind of a rebuild happening, not just for Trinity, but almost really probably potentially the entire league that's now 2 years old. Across the league, you'll see a large number of contracts come up. And anyone that's not one of these best three teams, I think you'll see a fair amount of turnover. So it's going to be a really chaotic summer in terms of player moves is my anticipation. Trinity for specifically, they're losing Wisner in midfield. Bellotta was hurt at the end of the year a lot. Steinbeck, who has looked like a really nice player on loan, her loan probably ends potentially. So at center back, the central midfield and center back are where they're going to need to add pieces. Those are tough spots to add pieces. They're good on the flank. They're going to need right at the spine, and those are not easy to find. So they got their work cut out for them. I think Trinity does this offseason.
I know in your Discord, the Trinity specific portion of the Discord, there has been some weird conversations floating around in there about their situation at the Cotton Bowl and whether or not the team may end up finding someplace else to play further north. Do you know any more about that? Is there any truth to those rumors?
I think that's a little bit off. There's some rumors, and I know the team's been working on trying to get a training situation set up. They're doing what FC Dallas did in their very, very early days, which is training at a high school. That's not an ideal situation. There's no locker rooms there. Players are arriving in their gear and getting in their car after training in their gear. It's not a good setup. It's tough to bring people in there as guests because it's a very locked down, very private campus. Urhoghide is the name of the school. I think what they're trying to do, because you remember they have an original 3-year setup at the Cotton Bowl that had a pretty good was pretty good in terms of the city paying for a lot of the costs initially. So I don't think that they would be bailing out on the Cotton Bowl right now. I think the stuff that we're hearing about a facility, I think, is related to a training situation and perhaps some offices, some locker rooms for the players, that kind of thing. That's what I think is happening. Perhaps we're hearing maybe like a Grapevine South Lake kind of area, like northwest of town, going towards the airport or slightly north of the airport kind of vibe. That would be ideal for them. They're not going to have a stadium with a ground outside it like FC Dallas does. But if they could get a situation that was like where Dallas was in the middle years, which was that facility north of the Colony. What was the name of that stupid
Blue
place?
Sky.
Blue Sky, yeah. They need a thing like Blue Sky, but that they own and controlled. Maybe has a few fields that you can use for your whatever academy type situation you eventually put together if they're going to go that route, or lease out to other teams or clubs or whatever and get some revenue going that way. Those things are all really important. I think that probably would be their goal first, would be that kind of thing, because the costs for that are way below the cost of a stadium when they already have right. the Cotton Bowl. And the Neals, remember, are a property development real estate kind of family. So like the idea to me of like some sort of facility, office, training ground, like that is right in their wheelhouse. So that's kind of what my expectations are for them.
Okay. We should talk about this. and I know this is impacts you directly, which is the news this week that Spokane Zephyr, their women's team, which is in the same league as Dallas Trinity, has announced that they are folding.
Yeah, they're ceasing operations. They're going to continue with their men's side, Spokane Velocity. I think I'm not privy to much up here other than what I've read in the paper, and to try and make the long story short, they did not have revenue control of the stadium here. Basically, the city of Spokane built a high school soccer stadium. And then when that was going through the process, multiple teams, and I just learned this was in the paper, multiple people tried to get involved and say, hey, we'll throw in some money. Let us bring a team there. And one of the guys that talked openly this week was the guy that owns the minor league baseball team and the hockey team here, tried to put together a next pro team affiliated with one of the MLS teams and bring it here. And he lost out to the people that put together Zephyr and Velocity, mostly in part because they brought in the women's team. But the thing is that from the talk of the owners, like the revenue has not been there. And they threw out all this blah, 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 whatever. But at the end of the day, if you don't have revenue control of the venue, we've talked about this 100 times, Peter. And, everybody we know talks about this. Revenue control, not just of the facility, but like the area around it. These minor, what is not the top tier, what is clearly the second tier, third tier, whatever. You have to have things around it to make it all work. Look at how things are working in Fort Worth, where we know the fate of Farrington Field is up in the air, and that's going to dictate what happens with that potential franchise men's and women's side, right? So it's the same sort of thing. End of the day, not let revenue control. And I've been trying to talk to people around the league a little bit, and my understanding is that nobody in the Super League has broken even yet.
Oh yeah,
everybody
I totally
in the
believe
Super League is underwater. And at the end of the day, right, you need, if you're launching a league, we've seen it with every league that's launched here. You have to be able to sustain it for years, 6, 7, 10 years of sustain before everyone starts to feel good about the weather, like where NWSL is now, where MLS was after year 10 or so, right? So at the end of the day, you have owners like the Hunts who are billionaires. The two Hunt brothers are worth what, $9 billion a piece. And then you have guys like the Athletico owners who owned a company and sold it off and has some cash, and now they're putting this team together, but they're not billionaires. They can't compete with the Hunts, right? They're just sort of normal sort of millionaires. And then you have some owners like what we saw in Spokane, which are people that are just like executives and corporations or whatever, and tried to put together an investment group. And one of the people they got involved with here is a real estate kind of guy who maybe has a little bit of like moving money around sort of shadiness. This is the stories I hear, and they tried to conglomerate enough money together, and they just didn't have enough, and they don't have enough, and they cannot sustain it for the years that it needs to sustain, especially when they don't have revenue control. So I think
or revenue sharing within the league. That's the whole USL thing, which is so ridiculous to me, but
right.
It's every man for themselves.
Yeah. And no MLS team really makes money on broadcasting. Like I imagine USL Super League is a self-produced broadcast that's like offered up to whoever airs
local
it,
high school Peacock. AV teams.
Yeah. So like we've seen some of the qualities of some of that stuff. So like the Super League in general, like I'm worried about the overall total health of the Super League, in the sense that like, is everybody got enough money, like the Neil kind of money, to sustain it for 6 years or so and get some stability and not lose to, like USL leagues, the bottom 3 or 4 or 5 teams in USL leagues come and go all the time, right? Are we going to see that in Super League as well? And will that be able to sustain and survive and be healthy? And that's where I don't know what the future is going to hold,
Yeah.
I mean, there were strong rumors that there were 2 other teams that were either considering folding or were going to. Nobody else has yet. And you notice we haven't seen the season just ended, or they got a championship game to come, but no schedules out in terms of like the next season, which should start in August. I think that's when they usually start their season. So like right after the World Cup, that's like 2 months away, 2.5 months away, and there's no schedule yet. So I'm a little concerned about the whole thing.
Yeah.
And I think Trinity is one of the healthiest ones. They have 3rd highest attendance, and they have some good sponsors. They draw on like 3,500, sometimes up to 5,000, depending on the game, sometimes less than 3,500. They have some good merch sales, we know, that they talk about. So question marks abound, my man. Question marks abound.
Interesting future for the sport, especially with all the new stuff coming into town. It's going to be wild to watch all this go. All right, so let's see. What else did we have this week in terms of other football around DFW? Rodeo. What did Rodeo do this week?
Rodeo announced a turf little field downtown Salina, a little venue, a little bar type thing, exactly like McKinney Chupacabras are doing at Tups. They're going to have some parties and some stuff like that. It's just part of their brand building for Rodeo. And Chupacabras had a groundbreaking today on theirs at Tups Brewery. So this kind of thing is pretty common at that level right now. It's a thing everyone's pushing for. They're just going to have some summer soccer events like everybody else is, trying to take advantage of the World Cup. Nothing earth-shaking, but it's something to at least note. And then the FC Dallas U23s had their first game of their season against 10-15, which was funny because Zach Lloyd, who coaches the FC Dallas U23s, was coaching against his club that he and his wife founded. So his wife was coaching 10-15. She's a former pro player too, so it's not like she's a chump. But so they played each other, and Dallas won 6-0 because they got a bunch of people back. I'm supposed to get a roster from them this week.
Okay. And speaking of Atletico, they're what is it, like a U23 team, or what is it that's out there running around?
Atletico 2, yeah. It turns out that they've played 3 or 4 games already, and Dan sourced a couple of pics of them in their kits, and they have a black one with blue sleeves, and then they have a blue one with black sleeves, and so we saw they got play. They're out there playing. It's UPSL. That's a pretty low level of play. It's nationwide elite amateur play, really, basically. So
it's fancy Sunday league.
Yeah, it's better than that, but it's not crazy better than that.
Yeah, no, it's fancy. It's high. Yeah. It's more organized Sunday league. Level. Yeah. The teams that are playing in UPSL are the teams that typically are playing in the Open 1 division of your local Sunday league. Yeah.
It's a lot of these guys are guys that are right out of college, and so they're still pretty much in the prime of their playing career, and they're pretty good players. They're just not pros. Right. They're the best players from college that didn't make it as a pro. And the Atletico version, I think, has got a good chunk of dudes they borrowed from Foro, basically, and then a couple of former FC Dallas guys that are on there that have not quite made it.
All right. Well, it's sad that the podcast is going into stasis for a period of time, and Dan isn't here to join us.
Yeah, it's a weird time, like with this big of a break with nobody playing. Other than like North Texas has 2 more games, but when we do North Texas stuff, nobody listens. So the biggest thing that's going to happen between now and when Dallas plays again is the next summer window. This summer's window opens July 13th. So that's in the middle of the World Cup. The window will open up for incoming players into MLS, into FC Dallas. So, we'll see if they have some activity. You might need to sell some people to get some people in, but that'll happen before they play again. So, Quill's going to have a nice little 2-month spring camp here in the middle of the season and maybe get a couple players in. You never know. Maybe sell a couple players. So it won't shock me to see a different roster from FC Dallas now than we did before.
Okay. Before we go, we talked about it a little bit at the beginning. Tomorrow, we're recording this on Monday. Tomorrow, the national team roster is being quote unquote revealed, despite the fact that it was leaked on Saturday. Yeah. You have any thoughts or reaction to that, since Dallas has 4 players apparently, and one of those is not somehow Tanner Tessman?
Yeah, I'm at the end of the day, I'm not surprised Tanner, because he's been hurt a little bit, right? So he hasn't been playing much. So I'm not surprised on that one. I can't help but think that your guy, is it Johnny Cardoso or whatever, that got hurt at the last minute, may have cost Tanner a spot, in the sense that like they had to probably bring in Roldan to shore that up just in case. The biggest thing on the roster for me is no Diego Luna. And they made Diego Luna the face of their marketing and selling, and he's like one of the faces of a brash, young, exciting, tough as nails, Clint Dempsey style U.S. national team. He didn't make it. That pisses me off.
Okay, I'm glad you brought this up, because one of the interesting things that I thought about when that news came out was I reflected on the game here in Dallas a few weeks ago when Salt Lake was in town and Luna was playing for them, and we heard that Pochettino's assistant was in the stadium scouting Luna. And I came out of that game thinking, man, I don't know if Luna's going to get called up, because he did not play well this game. He had that one moment after Shaq brain farted and he had and they just essentially let him take a shot from, a little bit of space. But other than that, Dallas did a really good job on him, and I was not impressed by it. He just didn't look like he cared very much, and I thought, I wonder if they're going to call him up.
Yeah, that was not a good game from him. But the thing I'll say about that is that RSL's not nearly as good as the players that would be around him for the national team. Yeah. Like he would be the third or fourth choice of talent on the field at any moment. So he's going to sneak up on people from the national team. And I also am a big believer in guts. Like there's a reason why I think Clint Dempsey is the best American player ever, and it's because of his guts. And I think Diego Luna is cut from that same cloth. And our national team, as talented as it is, can be really crazy soft and miss some World Cups in large part because they don't have guts. And I think that kid had guts in spades. And I think it's a miss that he's not in there. I think they need people like him that'll rise to the occasion and battle and bleed for his country.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of these guys won't do that.
Yeah. But I would also say, if you think about Roldan and Berhalter, the two MLS midfielders that did get called up, they really stand out in their games consistently. Like they've been consistently good for their teams for a while. And Luna's coming off injury, and he just does. I kind of get it at this point, as much as it disappoints me, because I'd love to have a team made up of 11 broken-nosed Diego Lunas. He hasn't been super good of late, so I kind of get it.
I think Berhalter and Roldan cost Tessman. I think Gio Reyna took Luna's spot. Like I would rather have I would rather have Luna than Gio Reyna.
I think what cost Tessman is Chris Richards' injury, because with Chris Richards' injury being questionable, they had to call in extra center back help or extra defensive help.
Fair.
And Tessman's injury was too big of a risk to call him up instead of adding some more defensive depth, especially if he's going to do what I think he's going to do, is play three in the back. And he needs more center backs to pull that off.
Well, it's unfortunate that they didn't get a chance to work more with the Tessman center back idea, because I still think Tessman could be one of the best center backs the U.S. has if they would just play him at center back. But they don't.
I agree. Yeah. How much of that do you think is Tessman? Do you think Tanner is like, yeah, I'll do it if you ask me to do it? Or is it like, yeah okay, I don't want to do it, but you know what I'm saying? And like, is he putting out a vibe that he wants to play center back?
He probably doesn't want to play center back, but I know for a fact that since he was in the academy, I've talked to people around him that have known that he probably would end up being a center back eventually. And like, because like when he was in the academy, he was like a 10. He was like a dynamic playmaking, right? And like the further you go, the further back you drop. So like now he's like an 8 or a 6. And like by the time he's 30, he probably is going to be a center back. And the thing is that he's tall. He's really good at physical one-on-one defender.
Tank.
And he's just absolutely gorgeous pass. He would instantly be the best passer, even better than Richards, out of the back on the national team. And he can hit these extraordinary long balls. Now, Chris Richards is an immaculate passer too. Richards is a better passer than anybody else they got as well. But Tessman would be even better. And like those two dudes together would just be an extraordinary center back pairing. But that's, he would have to do it for his national team. Not national team, probably for his club team too, in order to do it enough, probably Tessman, because he's not a natural center back. So like he would have to like make a real conversion. It's probably too early for that for him. But I still wish it would happen, because I think he'd be worth crazy money as a center back.
We'll see. Maybe the Federation has pulled a fast one on everybody and purposely leaked out an incorrect roster. And what we end up getting tomorrow is going to be some sort of
that would be so fun.
That would be great.
It would be so fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I wouldn't even care like what players were different. Just to watch the internet react. That being the case would just be baller.
Well, thank you very much. The one file I'll share with the good curious here, the one weird stat that has taken place out of the World Cup Kit Cup is that as of this morning, the number one overall voted shirt was the South Korean away, the purple kit. But what's weird is that when you break it out by team, it's not even the preferred shirt between it and the home red, but it is it's the one shirt the people who love it have by more, just barely over the U.S. Stripes jersey, pushed it to the top of the table. And I find that fascinating, because if you're into that kit, man, you're pushing that thing all the way along. So there you go. we'll see how it goes. Now, hopefully more people start doing this and the numbers start to reflect more people.
A greater sample size.
And a bigger I mean, statistically, the number of people who have done it so far is statistically safe, but I won't be surprised to see if we get 2x the number of people who have done it now. It changes quite dramatically by the time the World Cup starts happening. So there you go. All right. Well, Buzz, thank you, sir. I don't know what am I going to do if I'm not talking to you at least once a week?
You'll have to talk to Andy every day.
Okay. All right.
But it's all right. Yeah. I mean, there are worse things to do.
I like talking to you more than Andy. Way more. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm here every day. You can just call me up.
Just call you?
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll even get on Zoom together and act like it's in person.
Like it's a pod episode? Okay. Yeah. We put together a run sheet for our conversation?
No, you have somebody to do that for you for the World Cup. I don't need that for you.
All right. Very good. Well, hopefully all is good with Dan. Hope he has a nice World Cup too. Buzz, you have a nice World Cup. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being here. It's been a heck of a first half of the season. Can't wait for the second half.
Yeah, it'll be fun. It'll be really interesting to see how this thing plays out. Yep. And thank you, DFW Soccer Curious. Love you much. And have a great World Cup. And we will speak to you in a bit on the next episode of Third Degree, the podcast.
Patrick Delgado at 11 touches versus Colorado.
Go USA.
Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast. Third Degree, the Third Degree Net Podcast.